Today on Up Front, a year in politics unlike any we've ever seen. Governor Scott Walker runs for president and drops out 71 days later. Congressman Paul Ryan is elected Speaker of the House. And billionaire businessman Donald Trump leads the field of GOP presidential hopefuls. We'll review it all and look at the year ahead with our political panel. Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel columnist Christian Schneider and Capital Times associate editor and correspondent for The Nation, John Nichols.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. It's our final program of 2015, and what a year it's been. Political prognosticators have been left scratching their heads time and again, and everybody's wondering, how's it all going to end? We're looking at what happened and what may happen in the year ahead here at home and nationally with our political panel. Christian Schneider, columnist for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and John Nichols, associate editor of the Capital Times and correspondent for The Nation. John is joining us today from our affiliate in Sacramento, California. Thanks to both of you for joining us today. And John Nichols, since you traveled the furthest to join us today, let's talk about Wisconsin in 2016 and the presidential race in particular. Are we likely to play as important a role as we have historically played in the presidential race?
If it is a competitive race nationally at all, Wisconsin will, as always, be at the center of it. Wisconsin will be one of the critical battleground states. And the only way that Wisconsin doesn't play in a big way is if, I suppose, you end up in a situation perhaps with a Donald Trump or a Ted Cruz nominated and the Republicans just don't get traction. At that point, Wisconsin might go out of play, but then probably the whole of the country does. So the bottom line is that since 1972, Wisconsin has been a more competitive state than the rest of the country, i.e., that if you're going to look across the whole country and find a place where the action was, it was always more in Wisconsin than any place else, and I would imagine that that will continue.
Christian Schneider, are we going to matter? Is, for example, even the April presidential primary in Wisconsin going to matter?
I actually completely disagree with John. There's kind of a catch-22 here, whereas, I mean, we all know that a Republican hasn't won Wisconsin in a presidential race since 1984, I think.
Correct.
So the problem is, if it's competitive in 2016, that means that I think a Republican is probably riding a national wave type election where, you know, they're going to be winning Pennsylvania and Ohio and all the other swing states. So if Wisconsin matters, Wisconsin won't really matter. You know what I'm saying? The problem is, you know, they have to not screw it up, Republicans this time. And
how would they screw it up?
You know, I'm glad you asked that question, Mike Goucher. There happens to be a guy up at the top of the polls right now that would be a catastrophe for Republicans all down the ballot. You know, a guy like Rubio, if you look at his polling here in Wisconsin, he does very well. He could be the one guy that I think might be able to, you know, he has the magic sauce to be able to take Wisconsin. But anybody else, and especially Trump, would be a catastrophe for Republicans, you know, down the ballot here in Wisconsin.
Cruz?
Cruz is going to be competitive, but he, again, here in Wisconsin, you look at the polling, the Marquette poll, he doesn't do really very well in the state.
John Nichols, there's supposed to be, I say this, there's supposed to be a Democratic presidential debate in Milwaukee in early February. Is that going to matter? Is Bernie Sanders in this for the long haul, in your opinion?
It's a good question. Look, it will be decided in the 10 days, roughly, or 12 days, before that scheduled Milwaukee debate. If Bernie Sanders does well in Iowa, and if he wins New Hampshire, then yes, I mean, he's going to come in at least reasonably strong at that point, and it'll be a good debate. It'll also be the first Democratic debate in quite a while that's scheduled on a night when somebody might watch it. And so, yeah, I would imagine Sanders will still be in the race, and that it could actually be a very significant face-off. There is, if you look at the recent polling, a reasonable chance that Sanders could close the gap in Iowa, win New Hampshire, and come into that debate as the Democrat who's actually, you know, looking pretty strong. The challenge, of course, is the pivot out of that debate where you get into states where Hillary Clinton is stronger, and that's beginning with Nevada, South Carolina, but then going into the so-called Super Tuesday states, where frankly she's got a lot of strength.
Let's talk about.
But I think two things I'd say there. One, debate in Milwaukee probably still quite good, and two, good chance that Sanders and Clinton have a significant face-off in April in Wisconsin.
Let's talk about someone who is no longer in the race, and that's Governor Walker. Christian, I'll begin with you on this. Now with the little hindsight, are you still stunned by what happened to his campaign, and what does it mean for his future going forward as an elected official?
Yes, I mean, he walked into the race as being, the strong, uncompromising candidate, the front runner right off the bat. And, I mean, it just makes your head snap how quickly he wasted all that goodwill, taking different positions on different things, on ethanol, on, all sorts of things. But in a way, as we look forward, being such a terrible candidate is almost a benefit to him now, because he can come back here, he can kind of lay low for a little while. He doesn't have to still be out there, and people in Wisconsin are still wondering, what he's up to. So long term, this might actually be good for him. He can actually settle in. He can be, the wayward son coming home and get some stuff done, and then he'll. I don't think he's ever going to be super popular in the state again, but he can at least get back to kind of where he was, I think.
John Nichols, you've watched the governor's career for a long time. Let me have you address that same point. Were you surprised by what happened to him, and has this damaged long-term his political future?
Well, of course I was surprised by what happened to him. I mean, my sense is that Scott Walker, well, my sense always was that Scott Walker was a pretty quick study and somebody who would wade into things, maybe that he wasn't fully prepared to, but his determination, his work ethic would see him through, that things would work out. That simply did not prove to be the case. He was not at all prepared for a national run. He was, I think, by any reasonable measure, embarrassed by a lot of the interview situations, a lot of the debate situations. It just didn't work for him on the national level. I think, in turn, that hurt him a lot in Wisconsin, because Wisconsinites were paying attention and they saw their governor not doing very well. So he was diminished by this year. It's interesting, though, I would suggest on the governor's behalf, that he got out saying that the Republicans had to get focused on beating Trump. It was a minor part of his exit. People didn't listen to it as much. But imagine if Trump comes into Wisconsin as a strong candidate, but with a viable challenger, somebody up against him who might be able to knock him out. It's at that point that Scott Walker could resurface on the national scene and even, raise his esteem in Wisconsin if he emerged as somebody campaigning very hard for an alternative to Donald Trump. So I don't think his story's done, but it's going to be interesting to see what he does with that Wisconsin primary.
Let me take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll have much more with our panel, including the race for U.S. Senate in Wisconsin. Feingold, Johnson, the rematch. We'll be right back.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.